Hi, I'm Will Baston, a pastoralist at Jimba Jimba Station in the Gascoyne region of Western Australia in Australia. Great. It's a beautiful day, sun's shining and birds are chirping, so it's great to be here. Yeah, so last year I ran as a electoral candidate for this area, the Northwest Central seat in Western Australian Parliament. I unfortunately didn't make it into Parliament, but it was a great experience, and I really enjoyed connecting with people and conversing about what the issues of people have in the area. I guess my interest in representing people, a real honour to help people, and for me, is the way of helping people is to understanding what they need and being a representative of locals. Currently in West Australia, there's a lack of voices in the West Australian Parliament for the bush. We are very much dominated by urban Perth. Perth in West Australia is 2.3 million people, and the rest of WA is almost 300,000. So, the dominant voices is definitely the urban areas of West Australia. Although West Australia is such a large area, it covers many issues, and geographically, there's transport, there's health, there's schooling. It's a very remote part of the world to live in, and so sometimes it feels like you're unheard when it comes to issues that are affecting locals. Yeah, so I'm sixth generation. So my parents have had they've been the pastoral lease managers of Jimba Jimba for 47 years. I was born here. I was raised here. Yeah, I feel this is part of my home. This is who I am, and I can always travel and see the world and come home. The Gascoyne River, where we are now, is such a beautiful tributary of Australia. It's 650 kilometres long. It's the third longest river in Australia. Yeah, so that's a good question. So Jimba Jimba is a leasehold land. It's leased from the state of West Australia. And how that works is majority of Australia is leasehold or run by what they call the Crown. And the Crown land, if you like, was how Australia was set up. The provision for title to land was, for housing or smaller farms, has always been there. But these bigger properties around most of Australia is leasehold, and the reason they do that is to not exclude mining interests. So if the government can make revenue from a mining company to come and find a resource on these cattle stations, they'll allow miners to come and mine the land, and the cattle station can't stop them. And so that's why the lease for Jimba Jimba is 65 years. So we have the right to lease the land and live on the land and manage the land for 65 years. And after that, we have to reapply for another lease, and maybe for another 50 years or 100 years after that. It's even more than that. You have to do annual reports. You have to report on how you're running the property. You have inspections. So it's like a landlord comes to inspect your property and inspects your management, and then gives you sort of like an indication of if they're happy, or you need to tidy this up or fix this or change this. And so if you treat it like a landlord, and if you're renting a house or renting an apartment, it's pretty much the same. It's just at a bigger scale and a longer rent. It's interesting because sometimes you get treated as if you're not really they're meant to be there because you have this leasehold, you don't own the ownership. But yeah, I haven't got a problem with it. Well, we're still in that process of what roles and responsibilities. So, I do the operational side of things. The business is still owned by my parents, and I just really assist them in the operation of the business. I'm in the process of having those negotiations of possession and transferring. So it's been their life, so it's their home, and I can understand that they don't want to be left without having some role. So we're in that process now and negotiating that. The cost of operating the business, because it was so remote, fuel and expenses, and just living remotely and not that connected as to let's say, what you have in the city. I have a house in the city, and it's currently rented out, and will I be able to live there? Yes. And the reason I bought the house is because it has a gum tree and it reminds me of home, just like the gum trees behind me. I look up at it and I go, I'm back at Jimba Jimba. And I think if you've got a big connection to nature, anywhere in the world is great. Last 2 years, through the COVID pandemic, the shortage of meat, there was very much an increase in price, so that was quite welcomed by farmers as such. And I would say now, this year, with the drought-like conditions and people offloading cattle, the market's completely gone the other way. So it's almost like, half the price of the animals. You have helicopter bills, fuel bills, wages, transport of cattle, transport of fodder, hay bills. You start adding it all up, and you're like, well, are we going to make any money, or are we just paying out to exist? So that's tough, and so I guess that's part of the life you live in agriculture. It's not a great space to be in, but you have to really rise to the challenge. We have had barely any rain, so it's looking to be like what we would call a drought, and so we have to change the management appropriately according to the conditions, whether that be the landscape conditions or the financial conditions of the market with the cattle prices. You have to adjust and be flexible enough and versatile enough to change with what's affecting the business. Yeah, so we've got to reduce animals. So with lack of rain, you have a reduction of grasses, and the grasses are the main food source for the animals, and so therefore it's almost like it becomes the shortage of the grass means there's not enough animals to maintain their dietary needs, and therefore there's obviously the elderly, or they get sick and they start, the worst case scenario is there's death. And that's not just cattle, that's you'll see that in the kangaroo population, you'll see that through ecology, you'll see it through a lot of other elements of animals across the station. Recently with mustard, we've taken off a significant number of cattle to reduce the pressure on the land. It was hard because it's like life slowed down. We didn't have the option of having working holiday visa workers. My parents are elderly, and not wanting to expose them to potential people having COVID, and there was a concern about, if they got COVID, how would they exist in a remote part of Australia without the healthcare. It's everything, all the things you wanted, like services, the equipment that we need to operate, was very much harder to get to because logistics across the world slowed down. Life slowed down. Everything slowed down. Jimba Jimba is 365,000 acres. It's about 60 kilometres by 40 kilometres wide, and we're in the Gasco River, so we have 60 kilometre of river frontage. It's a dry riverbed, and with mustering, with such a large area, we utilise a helicopter contractor who is basically pulling together, or using the machine to move cattle in a direction where there are people on motorbikes that herd those cattle into yards, and from the yards then we are processing the cattle, and so that they are getting their earmarks and piercings, so their tags, so that they can be recognised as owning to Jimba Jimba, and then obviously any males, predominantly male cattle, will get sold, and some female cattle, and that's the way that the business makes its money, is basically harvesting the cattle once a year, mostly once a year, and then we will do that as a big program, and it may involve anywhere between 6 to 10 people helping out with the mustering program, from the helicopters, the motorbike riders, the people in the yards, to people cooking meals, so that's what mustering is, and that happens a lot of places around Australia. They may do it differently. Some people use horses, and other people will use bull buggies and things like this. So yeah, it's a very iconic Australian thing to do on these big properties. Normally between 70 to 80% of mustering is really normally what you would always get. Because such large areas and you're bringing the animals together, sometimes the animals will either stay under trees or they'll go back in the direction that they want to go back in, and so they don't come into the larger mobs. This year was probably pretty good. I feel like we were probably close up to 90% because it's drier and then the animals are closer to water points. Last year it was $1,300 per cow. This year's about $700. That's a real change, and for a reduction in price, there's not many things that drop that fast. Everyone's in drought or lack of rain. They can't feed the cattle that they want to buy, or if they have to buy in the feed to feed the cattle, that has to reflect on the cow price. So some of the heifers even sold as low as $300, $400. So it's a lot of effort. The trip to take them to market is $100 per animal. So you look at the animal and you're thinking, is this going to cost me more to send it than leave it on the property? And then other things will also go into consideration, like the cost of the aircraft probably is about $10 per animal. The wages, I don't know, maybe much more, $30, $40 an animal. But you have to make these choices. If you're looking at your objective and vision to look after the country and look after the landscape, that's where you start making your decisions. That's the more important thing, because you won't have that long sustaining business if you're very much a money orientated person. So we bought some stud bulls, and that's an annual thing. We will buy replacement herd bulls. They are to be the breeding bulls, so that the genetics is maintained, because you don't want inbreeding. That just lifts the genetics of the whole herd over time in a direction that you want to head. Probably not. My generation were told by their parents to go off and get a career, become a professional, leave the country. There was really tough times with commodity of wool or meat, and it's only in recent last 2 or 3 years it gave a lot of hope to young people to say there is a future, because if you can afford to pay your debts, your loan repayments, you can exist. I know my parents' life of 47 years has been some really tough years, where when you don't get rain, you don't get the commodity you think you're going to get, and then you get low prices. You have a big year and you spend too much money, you need that money to carry you for those low years. Farming, you don't do it to make money, you do it because you love it. Yeah, great one. So there's 2,000 cows on this property. I don't know every single name of the animal. I treat them as their own respectful animals. I don't like people pushing or making them move too fast. And sometimes they're very slow. There are different characters. Every cow is unique. It's your handling and it's your body positioning. Not too docile, but just calm animals that will walk through the yards, eat the hay, not be agitated, not be too scared. Good frame, body frame. I see them as a tool. I don't see them as a commodity. I see cattle as a way to manage the landscape. I see them as a way to put back organic matter into the landscape. Australia, especially where I am here in the Gascoyne region, is a very dry continent. We don't get the rainfall and the humidity in other parts of the world, and therefore the animal, their gut management actually has organic matter that's perfect for getting soil microbes going in Jimba. I think the behaviour of animals is making sure if we can bunch them up, if we can keep them healthy, is the ultimate lawnmower, if you like, to go across the country to help stimulate growth. Animal behaviour and how the outcome and how they are on the landscape is very pivotal. If you have some animals that are a bit rough or a bit aggressive, agitated, and want to leave the herd, they're the ones you want to take out of the property. Ultimately, they will train other animals to behave in that way. Those farmers who can see cattle amongst their fences, they see them every day, you'll find that they're very quiet. The properties are very large, like Jimba. You don't see the cattle every day. It's like an interview, or you see them one day a year, and it's how you behave. Even when you come up to a water point, you don't directly drive fast at the animal. You do circle around them so they just know that you're there, not a threat. And if you can not be a threat, acknowledge the existence. Well, there are definitely people in the planet who are not kind to animals because they see them as a commodity, or they see them as not an equal. I feel that with animals, you've really got to put your shoes in their feet. What's the most kindest thing you can do for them? Yeah. 100%. I have contractors who help me achieve the mustering as well as employees. Initially, at the beginning of the muster, we'll have a conversation about how we want the muster to go and how to make sure that we want behaviours. Outside the station, I've been an environmental consultant, an advocate for the environment, been a town planner, as well as travelling the world and learning about culture and people. So my passion is travel and helping people, but also producing good food. It's trying to balance it all. A bit of a challenge for me because I like to take a month or 2 months and see a country and meet people, and then I will always want to help my family. This cattle station's been going since a long time now, 1878. But I still feel like I can balance it. Interim caretaker or manager of a very particular time period where it says, look, this is 4 months, this is the role, and this is the expectations, and we will have to actually recruit this person to carry that time. Some people, really don't mind spending a couple of months on a place and just being part of it, part of their story. I think I'd be happy farming anywhere in the world. I know this is my home, but I feel like I could do farming anywhere. Yeah, absolutely. So my partner Maggie and I are looking at doing a biodiversity pilot project, which is looking at the tributaries and streams around a particular area of the station and see if we can slow the water and increase life around creek lines and tributaries. So that would mean that there's more plant matter, soil, organic matter in the ground, and then that would support more life. A small project, but for us it's very big because it's a large area. That one might involve fencing and trap yards and moving cattle when we need to move cattle, electric fencing, herd management. So Maggie and I have got a few ideas. I'm looking forward to implementing them. There's a tourism project we've got. So we're looking at an interpretation centre that has environmental and pastoral activities amongst it, and ecological camping. It's actually 30 kilometres this way on the river, and I'm kind of proud of it because it's a very special spot. Yeah, I'd like to probably live there one day. It's so magical for me. It's a project in the works, and we're working with a lot of not-for-profit organisations to help deliver this. The business case is not really there to say that we're going to get any money for the amount of effort we put into fixing up old buildings or making campsites. We're not next to Uluru or Great Barrier Reef, so remote. Your numbers of tourists are very low, but we want to have a facility for them so that when they come out this part of the world, they can experience it.
This is the end of the interview. I know you're really busy.
No, that's
so
excellent.
Thank you.
And as
precious
I said,
time.
pleasure.